Okay, my name is Mr. Hlaba. Today, I will be presenting to you the accounting equation of cash payment journal. Remember, we have done a CRJ in term 2. Now in term 3, we are doing CPJ. CPJ. Let us first go through the basics. Let us go through the basics. The accounting equation accounts. So with regard to the accounting equation accounts, under the assets account, we have a land and building, we have a vehicles, we have equipment, we have bank, trading stock, debtors. Mostly important, the one that we are going to deal with is this one, which is a bank account. This is the one that we are going to deal with mostly when we do the accounting equation of cash payment. Because we are going to deal with only payments. So our focus will only mainly be on the bank, because when you pay directly through the bank. So we also have the account under that falls under the owner's equity, where we have a capital, we have under the incomes, we also have a current income, rent income, and then we have expenses, which are salaries, wages, stationery, water and electricity, and rent expenses. These learners, these expenses, they always decrease. They always decrease. It's always a negative when you come across these accounts. They always decrease the owner's equity, but this one, they always increase the owner's equity. Every time when you come across the rent income, remember it under the amount, it should be plus next to the amount. But when we talk about the salary, when we come to the salaries, wages, stationery, water, electricity, those expenses, next to the amount, it should be negative. This they always they always decrease owner's equity, but this one, they always increase owner's equity. Under capital, it will be plus. Under capital, it will be, we'll deal with plus, and then drawing C is always going to be the negative side. It's always going to be the negative side. Just to catch up when we are going to the transaction, those basics, you should remember them. And what is important, the assets can either be plus or it can either be negative, depending on the transaction. What does the transaction says? But when the assets increase, it becomes plus. When it decrease, it becomes minus. So let's move to the brief accounts. When we talk of water and electricity, yes, Minil?
Yes, may I please notify colleagues and learners that Matt will present after you. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Minil. Thank you, Minil. Let us carry on. Now, when we talk about water and electricity, learners, when we talk about water and electricity, you should know on the transaction, when they have mentioned that they are paying water, electricity, you should know whether it's either can be assets, owner's equity, and liability. Those are the basics that you should know. That when you talk about water, electricity, it means we are referring to, it's part of the owner's equity. So transaction is affected, the owner's equity will always decrease. And then when you talk of equipment, you should know that when you talk of equipment, we are talking about an asset. When you talk of capital, you should know we are talking about the owner's equity. When you talk about stationery, you should know that we are talking about the owner's equity. When you talk about the rent income, you should be able to know that we are talking about the owner's equity. When the transaction has the vehicle in it, when they have purchased the vehicle, just remember that that vehicle is an asset. And then drawings, personal use. This one is very important to learners. When the transaction is having drawings, how do you identify the transaction of drawings? If it is having, it says personal use, personal use, personal use. So if it is having a personal use, just remember that that is a drawings. That is a drawings. Then we talk of again the data. When you talk of the data, just know that we are referring to as the assets. Also, we are referring to as the assets. And then when you talk of the bank, we are referring to always this one, because we are doing the accounting equation of CPJ. Bank is always going to be affected. Bank is always going to be affected. Just remember that bank will always be affected. When you pay, bank will always be affected. Just remember that. And then we have a land and building. When we talk of the land and building in the transaction, just know that we are referring to as an assets. Now, what is important when you analyze the transaction? The thing that is important is that when you analyze the transaction is that there are two accounts that are affected. Two accounts that are affected. Very important. There are two accounts that are affected in a transaction. Whether you buy by cash, you buy on credit, or whether you pay. In accounting, there are two accounts that are affected in a transaction. Just remember that. Now, because we are going to do the accounting equation of cash payment, Jenna, it's a grade 8. Just know that bank will always be affected. Bank will always be affected. And what you should do, you should check as to whether what is this that is being paid. What does the business is paying for? Bank will always be affected, and then you check what is it that the bank the business is paying for. So let us move to the transaction there. The transactions now, because we have recapped about the basics. Now, the first transaction talks about pay the rent for 5,000. And the second transaction talks about the owner withdraw 400 for personal use. It talks about the owner, this one. I've mentioned that when we were briefly discussing the basics. Number 3, bought equipment via EFT for 13,500. We are buying also again, pay stationery by cash. And number 5, pay water and electricity by EFT to local municipality. So this accounts, because now we are going to do the CPJ, we are doing with the payments. We are dealing with the payments. So when we deal with the payments, just know that always the account that is going to be affected first is bank. So we have to identify as to whether the account, it can either be debit or it can be either be credited. But just know that when we deal with the payments, bank will always go to the credit side. I repeat again. When we deal with payments, when you do the accounting equation, when you pay, bank will always go to the credit side. And the sign under the owner's equity, assets and liability, the sign on the assets will always be negative. Minus will always be minus. Why? Is because we are taking the money out of the bank. The money is being deducted, or the money is going out of the bank. So when the money is going out of the bank, is reducing the amount that is in the bank. That is why it is indicated by the negative. Let's look at the analysis of number 1, the first transaction. The first transaction talks about pay the rent for 5,000 by EFT. Because we are paying, this is how the analysis was done. Bank is credited, and what are we paying? We are paying rent. When we pay rent, it's going to be rent expense, because it becomes a rent expense because we did what? We pay. It becomes rent expense because we pay. And then under the assets is going to be minus 5,000. The reason why it's minus 5,000 is because of this bank account. When the bank is on the credit side, always the minus sign should be indicated here. If it is on the credit side, there should be minus here. If it is on the debit side, there should be plus here. Because we are dealing with the payments, always the bank will always be on the credit side. Just remember that. Let's go to the next transaction. The next transaction says the owner withdrew 400 for personal use. Remember, I talked about the owner, personal use. So because of personal use, we refer to it as a drawings. Already we have the first account because we are taking the money out of the bank. So we credit the bank and then we debit the drawings. Why the drawings is debited? Because of this personal use. Is go under the assets is going to be minus 400 because of the bank, and then under owner's equity minus 400 because of the drawings. Drawings will always reduce owner's equity. Let's move to the next one. The third one, bought equipment via the EFT for 13,500. So the analysis is always bank on the credit side because we are paying. So bank, we credit a bank, and then we debit equipment because we are buying equipment. And then it's going to be minus 13,000. Unfortunately, here it is a mistake. It should not be like this. It should be minus, it should be plus 13,500. Why? Because bank is an asset and also equipment is an asset. So pardon me, here it's a mistake. It was supposed to be here plus that minus 13,000. The money is going out of the bank, and then plus 13,500. And then let's go to the next one. Here it should be 0, and again there is 0. Pardon me on that one. And number 4, let's look at number 4. Paid stationery by cash 200. Because we are paying, is going to be minus because the money is going out of the bank. Bank is going out of the bank because the money we are paying is a pay minus 200. Bank, we credit the bank. Stationery, because we are paying the stationery. We are paying the stationery, 200 minus 200 minus 200. The last one is water and electricity. Paid water and electricity by EFT 800 to local municipality. 800 minus because we are paying the municipality, water, electricity, it's an owner's equity. So this is the situation. Why I'm saying that? Because we are dealing with the payment. The bank will always go to the credit side. Just remember, this situation, it was caused by, because we are doing the CPJ payments. So when you deal with payments, all the bank accounts, they are going to go to the credit side, and they will be followed by these accounts that that we are paying for. So that is the end of our presentation. Because of time, my time is as exhausted. Thank you very much. Until we meet again next time, the great date. Thank you very much. That is the end of my presentation. Thank you. Thank you.